5 years ago, I got my third DUI and was forced into rehab. I guess I started getting into mushrooms because just right time, right place. I was searching for an answer and I just happened to come across somebody that was promoting microdosing. And I reached out to him. I started microdosing. Then I thought to myself, I can do this. This is for me. So I started growing mushrooms.
You trusting and believing like that flare that you sent out opened the universe, opened it up to you to then find the healing modality. So then for you to like take that and be like, I saved my life. I would say my healing journey started when I became a mother. And then it's like the layers. It's like the healing journey started when I became a mother, and then when Alex started drinking ayahuasca, and then there's like my era of when I'm drinking ayahuasca. It's like in all those layers. I'd also put the layer of like when I started therapy. That was also a good healing layer. Hey guys, welcome back to the Tikkun podcast. My name is Jacquelyn Myrin, and I'm here with Kelsi today.
Hi.
Hi.
So what are we going to talk about today?
Today I wanted to ask you how you came to ayahuasca.
Okay, so 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago, I got my third DUI and was forced into rehab. And I guess that's the beginning of where I became sober. That's the beginning of my journey a little over 5 years ago. After rehab, I felt like I was doing great, but still suffering from a little anxiety, depression, and then I guess I started getting into mushrooms because just right time, right place. I was searching for an answer and I just happened to come across somebody that was promoting microdosing. And I reached out to him. I started microdosing. Then I thought to myself, I can do this. This is for me. So I started growing mushrooms and supplying my own microdoses to me and my family. But I still had this lingering depression and it was just not going away. And there's, I guess 2 years ago in August, I was laying in bed and told myself that, like, just universe, help me. If I don't see anything in the next month, I'm just gonna end it. And I planned on, killing myself a month from that time. And I think it may have been a week later. I had been getting into free diving. So I was working on breath work and just was searching breathwork classes and came across a breathwork class at Kulashala and met your husband, Alex, and we just started talking about mushrooms. And I told him that I was searching for answers, I had maybe 12 tabs open on my computer screen of psychedelic therapy journeys in Costa Rica or Peru. And I was telling him about that, and he's like, well, actually, we do that. We do that in my backyard. And that's when ayahuasca presented herself to me. And I signed up for, I think, a couple weeks later, showed up at your house, definitely didn't want to walk in, wasn't feeling that great, parked sat in my truck for a little bit, and I swear he knew, I don't know if he knew, but he walked up to my window and knocked on my window and was like, "Are you coming in?" I was like, crap. Yeah.
He got me.
Yeah.
Remind me, did you come to a breathwork event before you did ayahuasca?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I did another breath work with you guys at the art studio.
Okay. So we had like met, I'm just trying to kind of like remember like our history, I guess,
Right.
and how it all started.
Yeah.
So you had come, you did breath work, and then a couple weeks later you did come to our backyard
Yes. Yep.
to drink ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what was that first experience like for you?
I was terrified, for one. I still get nervous every time I drink ayahuasca, but that first ceremony, I was so scared. I was shaking. At that point in time, I still don't like throwing up, but like my biggest fear was people are going to see me throw up. And just,
So funny how that's like such a big fear for
Yeah.
people in like the grand scheme of things.
yeah, for sure. And I remember coming in and I hated myself. Like that's a big thing. Like I did not love myself at all. And after that first ceremony, something switched inside me, and it was that ceremony where I finally loved myself and knew that
Yeah.
there's a purpose for me.
Yeah. What would you say to like somebody who basically is like waiting in their car for somebody to knock on the window to come inside when it comes to like coming to drink ayahuasca?
Definitely just take that step, because on the other side of it, it's wonderful. It's blissful. It's love and light, and you won't regret it. Honestly, I feel like that's even the lessons that I live throughout my daily life now. Doing the things that I don't want to do, because I know from that first ceremony, I know if I do the things I don't want to do, the other side of that is just pure reward.
Yeah.
So
So you said after like that first weekend, because you did 2 ceremonies, right?
Yeah.
That you felt like you found a sense of purpose. And I also heard you say like you loved yourself again.
Self-love.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So how do you continue to cultivate that, to carry that through these past 2 years?
How do I cultivate the self-love?
Like the self-love, so we get like all these like teachings and these lessons when we're like drinking ayahuasca, and they're like these grand experiences.
Right.
And for a while we can like, I like to say like we have this pink cloud effect afterwards. So it's like, it feels kind of easy, maybe, like I'll put that in quotation marks, like right after the journey of like, wow, I love myself.
Yeah.
But then like life comes back around, smacks you in the face. Like we get triggered, we fall in, it can be possible to fall into old patterns. Like ayahuasca isn't the, you know, the magic pill that's going to fix it all. Like we still have to do, you know, the said work. So what are some of the things that you did after that to kind of like allow that to really like take root and grow?
I think just giving myself grace, knowing that when I do get into a state of where I'm struggling, just breathe through it. I journal, I get massages every once in a while. I do the sensory deprivation pod. I do the things that I know make me feel good. Yeah. So I don't continue to say like my past patterns are cherry picking the negatives and seeing the negatives in my life, and just having that awareness so I can cherry pick the good things.
Yeah.
But not suppress the bad things either. So I don't know if this ties into the question, but I'll go throughout my life and have those intrusive thoughts or have the negative thoughts or just, I don't want to do this. And then I'll think to myself, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? And instead of saying, no, it's not going to happen, I say, okay, maybe it'll happen, but maybe it won't.
Yeah.
So,
and I feel like when we do those things that where it doesn't happen, it like starts to kind of like build this sense of trust with like life,
exactly.
you know, like that not everything is like out to get us. Not everything is like final destination mode and catastrophe. Yeah. It's like when we live like that, it's like we're kind of like addicted to our own drama in a way. Like we're creating our own chaos by being like, oh, something bad's going to happen. Like if I do this or if I don't do this, and we kind of keep ourselves like in that cycle. So like these like positive self-talk moments where we're like, it could happen, but also it could be really great.
Exactly.
You know, is like, and then you do the thing and it ends up being really great. Mm-hmm. And then it just like reaffirms like your nervous system, like not all bad things are going to happen all the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then you mentioned like your purpose,
right?
You want to like speak to what your purpose is?
I guess I'm kind of still searching for it. I don't think that I don't know how to explain this, but my own belief is my purpose is always changing. I have a goal that I want to reach. I have a path that I want to go down, but I think every day is different and I'm learning new things every day. I do believe that, ayahuasca saved my life. I told the universe I didn't want to be here anymore. I gave myself a month and, I do think that she saved my life. And I do think that my purpose is to work with just helping people who are struggling specifically with depression and anxiety and suicidal thoughts or ideations. I just want to help people. So you at least knew after you drank, like there was a purpose to live and to be like on this planet. And then what I kind of wanted to like backtrack to is like, you say ayahuasca like saved your life, but like really the empowerment here is like you saved your life. Right.
And I know like we've been talking about this a lot, like this like manifestation quality that we both have, but I think is really strong when we're together.
I agree.
But, so it's like, even though that was like this like cry and this like almost like this plea to the universe, it's like, again, that kind of riding on that like worst case scenario situation, but you threw it out there. You're like, universe, higher power, God, whatever we want to call it, right? It's like help, like you're waving the white flag. So in a way, like you trusting and believing like that flare that you sent out opened the universe, opened it up to you to then find the healing modality. So then for you to like take that and be like, I saved my life. Yeah. Like that's like in your hands. Like you did that. Ayahuasca is like the tool, right? That like kind of like brought you over the so to speak, like hump, that, getting you over or out of the deep end really, of your own despair. And then like, but it's you. Yeah. And it's always been you. Like you get to save you. You get to be your own best medicine. Like,
I love that. I know I've heard that, but it's like, I know because I forget it sometimes.
Right. And like ayahuasca is, it's amazing and life-changing, and people have these like really whoa experiences, and they come out and they're just like, oh, I get it, or they say like, I get there's nothing to get. Right. Like that's my favorite. Like, I'm like, exactly. Yeah. We're just all here, right. And, But it's like to give that credit purely to the medicine that is absolutely amazing would then be like a disservice to like your own personal growth to be like, oh, it was ayahuasca that saved my life. Like, no, you saved your life.
Right.
Which is even like, that's the beauty of that story is like, you saved yourself. You gave yourself that medicine.
I love that. I think her presenting herself was the calling I needed to save myself.
Yeah. How did that call like feel to you? Like when you started receiving the call? Because so we all get the call and it like looks different. And then some people like, they'll ignore it for a while. They'll be like, you know, especially like how many people are like drinking ayahuasca now. Right. So it's like, it's at least in our circle of where we live in Florida, I feel like, you know, you might know somebody who's drank ayahuasca. That wouldn't be like super uncommon, I feel like. But like, so for those people, they go home and they tell so-and-so, you know, and so-and-so and so-and-so, and the ripple effect of that goes out.
Right.
And like, that could look like the call too, where it's like, oh, wow, now I'm hearing about this. And then like a couple of days later comes back up again. It comes back up again. Some people like you, it's like 1 month, boom, like you're there. Like you didn't waste any time. Other people, they wait like a year or two. And then, you know, they come to this medicine.
Right. I do think it's less common than because we are encapsulated in this.
We're
world.
literally encapsulated in it. I think for me, like being a yoga teacher and obviously a co-owner of Tikkun, like it almost surprises me now when I like, people are like, what do you do? And I'm like, this is what I do. And they're like, what's that?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, at this point, it catches me off guard. I'm like, oh, cool. You don't know what ayahuasca is? Like, let's talk about what ayahuasca is, you know? Yeah. So, but I do think at least like within the general population of where we live, it's a lot of people know about it.
For sure.
Not everybody, obviously. So, like, how did that call look like to you? And then how did it feel from that moment that like you made that decision to drink it, ayahuasca, to, you know, that kind of that launching pad of doing it?
Right. So when I had given myself that month, I was looking for anything. Like I was still trying. It wasn't like I was just laying there and expecting something to happen, even though I kind of was. But I went online and I searched for how to heal depression naturally, or just all the retreats that I could find. Looking at mostly psilocybin retreats because that's what I understood. I would see ayahuasca retreats. I was like, I don't even know what this is. I never looked it up, but you know, I kept it on my tab. And so I don't know if that's specifically the calling because it still wasn't on my radar, even though it was right in front of my face. But going to the breath work at Kulashala with Alex. Yeah. And discussing that and him kind of saying the word ayahuasca. It's like, okay, that's,
like it resonated.
I heard that. What is that? And that's when I went home and did some research. And he called me up, I don't know, a couple of days later talking to me about it. And I'm still, I don't know. Did the other breath works with you guys. Called me up again. I think he called me 2, maybe 3 times to see, are you ready to do ayahuasca? And I was like, all right, I'll do it. And when I agreed and I sent over my deposit, I was just like, fuck.
Yeah. There's like that moment there of like, especially when you put money down on it, you know, there's like, it's like transactional in a way that happens, but then like really the pre-ceremony is like full force.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, things start to like come up because like when you go to drink ayahuasca, as you know, it's like, it's almost like taking, everything out to the chopping block. Yeah. So like, it's natural to feel like we call it the pre-ceremony, but like triggers usually come up. Maybe you're feeling like a little bit more emotional or, nervous, scared. I mean, you hear some crazy stories about ayahuasca. So then it starts to get people into a fear cycle, you know, but like,
I made that mistake of looking
it up. Yeah.
Worst case scenarios.
Yeah. Don't do that.
But I do know that pre-ceremony, I was just thinking about everything that I did not want to think about. And that was so hard for me. And I don't know if I was sick or if thinking like that mental state I was in was creating an illness in me.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Didn't you show up with a fever?
Yeah.
That was so funny. Yeah, that can happen. It's like, there are definitely times people get sick, like actual sick, you know, and they have to postpone. But then there are times that like you said, like symptoms happen like this because it's like, it's almost like your ego wants to do everything to protect itself, to be like, nope, I'm not going down this way. Like you can't take me down, you know? Yeah. So it's like for you, that showed up as a fever. I remember being like that was the first time I got to like experience that, from like facilitator to a journeyer, a person taking a mat. I was like, oh, it was almost kind of cool. Like I was like, I've heard of this. And here it is. Yeah. Continue though.
Basically just thinking about all the things that I didn't want to think about and so beyond terrified that I was going to go into this first journey, think about the shit that I did not want to think about.
Yeah. For 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah. And come out different, worse.
Yeah. Worse than better.
And my first journey, she was so gentle. The first cup is just kind of a movie through my life. And my mom was there and, you know, my stomach hurt and I was holding my hands on my stomach. And that's what my mom used to do when I was little. Every time I didn't feel good, she'd rub her hands together, put them on my stomach and take the pain away. And, you know, even though it was my hands on my stomach, it was actually her doing that. And that was beautiful for me. And then I took the second cup and that's when, it's like, oh, you wanted to go deeper? Let's go deeper. And definitely nothing that I could not handle, which I think is a huge lesson just in my journey with ayahuasca. She will never give me something that I can't handle.
I'll bet intense at times.
Right.
Yeah. But definitely like that's what is so beautiful about this medicine is that it meets you where you're at. Right. So it doesn't give you more than you can handle. And I love to tell that to people because they get so caught up in like, again, the fear cycle of like, what could this be? What am I going to see? Is this going to uncover something that, I don't want to know about, you know? Exactly. And it's at the end of the day, ayahuasca is a hyper intelligent plant and it meets you exactly where you're at. And sometimes those really like challenging journeys are the most rewarding ones where you come out and you're like, holy moly, I didn't think I could go through all of that. And it becomes like this empowerment statement of like, wow, I just went through that and I'm better on the other side of it.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just thinking about all the journeys that were so wild.
Yeah. So after that second cup, you went deeper.
I did.
And
that's where that self-love came to me.
Yeah. And how did that, like, was it a vision or was it a feeling? How did it present itself?
Oh, you just reminded me. It was, I don't know how to explain it, because I guess what I saw was, you had candles at the time, and I saw all the candles and just beams of light coming towards me.
Yeah.
And for me, symbolically, that was just reassurance that I'm not alone, maybe, or that I am worthy of light and love.
Yeah. Did it have a felt sense too, or was it like the vision of the beams of light coming for you?
I think at that time it was just the visions.
Yeah.
I do recall seeing this was my very first ceremony too, when I went into a different dimension. I saw this being of universe holding an orb with my soul family. And I don't know who they were. I just know that they were all part of my many lives, my many journeys.
Yeah.
They're all part of me and all love. And that was pretty rewarding for me to get that glimpse of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
What was your second ceremony like?
That one, so that one was letting go. I don't know how to talk about this, but there is a person in my life that definitely triggered the severe depression that I got into. And like 5 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe. Mm-hmm. But, I still couldn't let that go.
Yeah.
And I had been wearing a long sleeve shirt at the time that he had bought for me. And I was sitting up and I saw that I was wearing it, and I took it off, and I was like, I do not want him like around me or influencing me, or like, I just want to release that. And I recall purging. And in my mind, I was like, I need to purge 3 times. Like, I don't know why. And I was like, I need to purge 3 times. And I purged twice. And Alex came over. He's asking me if I want to go sit in the grass or something, because I think he could see I was struggling maybe. And I was like, no, I have one more. I need to get one more out. Sure enough, after what felt like forcing it, but it happened, so it wasn't forced. I got that third purge out, and I took my shirt off. I was wearing a sports bra, but I had the long sleeve that I had taken off, my other shirt that I took off, and I'm in my sports bra, and I just go sit in the grass, and I felt free. I felt like everything that was my depression was in that bucket and was laying on that mattress. Yeah. So that was a huge thing for me.
Symbolically, like shedding layers.
Shedding. Absolutely. Yeah. Inside and out.
Literally. So. Yeah. That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, we've come a long way in over 2 years now, right? Mm-hmm. So you no longer just come and take a mat. Right. How did you come into like wanting to be like of service and holding space for ceremonies?
I think after that first ceremony, I just became fascinated, and I was asking you and Alex all these questions, like how do you get into this? Do you like this? Like, why did you do this? And all these questions. And it just resonated with me. And it's like, yes, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit behind a desk. Like, I don't want to be in the service industry as far as like restaurants, which is
right.
what I used to do.
You want to be of service.
Of service, yeah. Exactly. I knew after that first ceremony, like this was for me.
Yeah.
This is what I'm meant to do.
And how does it feel when you're holding space?
I love it. It feels like I'm home when I'm there.
Yeah. It is so sweet when we all come together, like before retreat weekends start. And it's like, you know, our main little crew of people that we have out there. It does always feel like this like little reunion, you know, happening, getting prepared for the retreat weekend. And I'm so happy to have you out there and to have you supporting, you know, our ceremonies. And just to see like how far you've come from 2 years ago to now, you know, I've like the lights are on, you know, there's just so much joy when I look at your face. So, I mean, obviously that doesn't mean we don't have bad days. Right. We're human. Right. But like there is like such a luminosity to, you know, you're such an asset to Tikkun and to the space holding that you do at Tikkun, you know. So I'm happy that you like leaned into like purpose and being of service, you know. And then what about like going to Peru? So I'll speak to that like a little bit briefly before, you know, you can dive into it. But, you know, typically we go down to Peru because we're, as like facilitators and space holders, we're going down and we're doing our own work, you know? So I think, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier, it's like when we go down there and we do our work, we're keeping like our vessel, our container clean and pure so that we can, you know, do this work with, you know, a heart wide open. So, you know, when you feel that call to like go to Peru, to go like dive a little bit deeper, so that you can be of service, you know, how did that look for you when you felt like you were ready to go the first time? The first time I went, I was ready. I had no idea what I was getting myself in for. But I went to the first place. Yeah. And I was there for, I think, supposed to be there for 10 days, but ended up leaving on the 7th day. So I drank ayahuasca 4 times. And no, 3 times. Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay. And I struggled. That was one of the hardest things I had ever done in my entire life. I thought it was going to be this ayahuasca retreat. It's going to be beautiful. It was so hard. It brought up fear. It brought up like the darkness that, I mean, I felt it externally, but you know, you can only, everything's a projection. So I think it brought up a lot of my own darkness or fear, more or less. And the isolation was very hard. I am an introvert through and through. I love being by myself, but when I don't have the opportunity, or if I don't have like the okay to talk to people or look at people, I feel almost abandoned. I guess it triggers my abandonment because I feel like I can't do anything for myself because I'm not getting that external just discussion from somebody, and to sit with myself, even after doing ayahuasca and being with the medicine for however long I was prior to going my first time, and still not being able to sit in my own hut by myself without feeling like I was going crazy. I thought I was going crazy.
Yeah. It's, I mean, drinking ayahuasca is one thing, you know, and then drinking ayahuasca here in our backyard or out at Tikkun or going down to like the jungle or Peru. It's like completely different vibe, first and foremost. And then you put it into like the container of however long you're going to do a master plant dieta for. So 10 days of isolation with intermittent ayahuasca ceremonies in there. It creates like this like really intense pressure cooker. And it feels like someone's got to push that button to like let some of this pressure out before I explode, you know, especially that first time. There's nothing like the first time going down and doing a master plant dieta. It's like, talk about what you don't know what you're getting yourself into, like coming out to Tikkun or whatever the first time, but like, you don't know what you're getting yourself into the first time you're saying yes to a master plant dieta either. It is a whole nother beast. I feel like
it's not the same.
Yeah. And being in isolation, it allows this space for things to come up. The things that there's no avoiding it. There's no escaping from a master plant dieta. You're going to come face to face with what you're really dealing with here. You know, what's at the base level here that is kind of almost like, like at the base. So what's at the base level so that, you know, showing us how we're operating through life, basically. It's like almost like a surefire way to like really get down to like that root.
Like, oh, that still exists.
Oh, that's there. So, and like speaking to that, it's like healing is layers. So even though like you've done lots of inner work, you know, and done plenty of ayahuasca ceremonies, then it shows up again here, but in a different way. So what happened was you left early. And then you could look at it like, well, I didn't do it right or something, or I couldn't do it. But like, I think I remember talking to you after you got back and I was like, no, like you did exactly like what you needed to do to like empower yourself in that moment. Like something didn't feel right. And you then took yourself out of that situation. So again, it's like, it's Kelsi going back to Kelsi. It's Kelsi saving Kelsi, you know? So it's like each time you do that, then it's like reminding yourself that like, you've got you. We move through life, childhood and all the things. And while I would say most of our parents love us, you know, and they do the best they can with the tools that they have, we still acquire all of this like conditioning, you know, and I don't think any child really gets by unscathed, you know, like there's going to be something that we can talk about in therapy or, you know, come join us for an ayahuasca ceremony later on in life, no matter how hard we try to protect our children. But the thing, you know, so then we have all of this like, you know, childhood conditioning, basically. I won't necessarily say trauma. It's not everyone has trauma from their childhood. And then we move through life like that, you know? So in every our nature and our nurture is all shaped by that.
Right.
And so you being able to advocate for yourself and be like, nope, that's enough for right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to leave early is like going to little Kelsi and being like, hey, I'm here for you.
Right.
Like, I'm the adult that you need. Like, and I'm going to protect you. Mm-hmm. And we can go. And you know, and you're safe, you know? So, it can be easy to like look at these situations and be like, I didn't do it right or something.
I definitely felt weak.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be, we don't have to have the inner dialogue that then reaffirms the false belief or reaffirms the childhood conditioning that we're carrying through adulthood with us, you know? So then you get to go back and be like, hey, like I did what I needed to do to remind myself that I am safe.
Yeah. In the moment when I made that decision, it was just like relief.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm
done.
Yeah. Yeah. Like all I could think about was landing in Miami and then I would be safe. So.
Yeah, I got it. My first dieta too was like really touch and go there. Yeah. I was like not sure if I was going to make it to the end myself. And then it was like that halfway point where I was like, I got to come out of isolation. Something's got to give. And for me, that was like taking that pressure off, of the pressure cooker. And I was able to ask for support and talk to somebody. And that for me, like, again, I could have gotten into it where I was like, I didn't do it perfect. I didn't do it right, you know?
Right.
But I don't know, as you know, Alex and I say, we don't really view things as necessarily right and wrong. We do everything happens exactly as it should.
Exactly. I love that.
Yeah.
I say that to myself all the time.
All the time. It's like, nope, even that is perfect. Yeah. And for me in that moment in my dieta, it was like, I was able to ask for support, which is something that has always been hard for me in life. Yeah. So it's like, I then got to, make it that empowerment statement, make it a positive thing. So I left my Tombow, which I was afraid to leave my Tombow, first of all, like in the jungle, Yeah. And I'm walking, I'm like, I'm going to talk to somebody. I need support, and like, because of receiving that support, I just remember feeling that it was just like that like massive like exhale of like, okay, I'm going to be okay. I can do this. And I didn't do it wrong because I asked for support. And I was able to go back to my hut, and I'm like, all right, I can do it, I guess, I
think I still struggle with asking for support.
Yeah.
Often.
It's one of those things where it's like deeply embedded, where it's like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, it shows up for me too, But then I remember, why am I doing this to myself?
Right.
Like, support is great. I don't have to bear all of the weight.
Yeah.
And then you lean in.
Yeah. That was a big lesson for my second dieta with you.
Yeah. That one was a little different.
Right. Much better.
Yeah.
But still sat in my own suffering. And then you asking for support and me being like, why couldn't I do that? Like, what? Why? Like,
just here, poster child of support.
Yeah.
Asking for support. Yeah. Oh, are you talking about in the second ceremony when I was like, help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Specifically asking her to get the bugs.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, there's so many cockroaches.
Yeah.
Gotta love the jungle. Just the pressure cooker that we put ourselves through to be of service, Here we go. When are we going back?
I know. February.
Right around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you remember like a time that like recently, besides Peru, that you needed support and you didn't ask?
I think because I love and trust you and Alex, it's much easier for me to be transparent and like kind of lighten my load a little bit with you guys because I know it's safe. So then...
Yeah, like you're going to be received.
Right, exactly.
That also helps.
So I don't necessarily think there is ever a time, because if there was, it didn't take me very long to reach out.
Which is cool. Like when you're doing the healing work at first, it can feel like hard, like really hard, whether it's like asking for support. Like if you're not the type of person that can be like, hey, I could really use some help right now. Like whether that be like cooking dinner or, or you're feeling really down, even like saying those words for the first time can be hard to be like, can you please help me? And even leading up to maybe like that first time you asked for support, you might grapple with it a little bit longer than you do now, So it's so interesting to like look even back over like my own healing journey. And so I was actually just talking about this with somebody, but like, I didn't really grow up in a family that said, I'm sorry, or even that many I love yous, And so like, that was like my childhood conditioning. And I kind of carried it proudly, not knowingly. And I knew when I had children that I wanted to do it differently, like that I wanted to show up differently for them and love them like aggressively, and be willing to say, I'm sorry. And I mean, for me, I would say my healing journey started when I became a mother. And then it's like the layers. It's like the healing journey started when I became a mother. And then when Alex started drinking ayahuasca, and then there's like my era of when I'm drinking ayahuasca, it's like in all those layers. I'd also put the layer of like when I started therapy, that was also a good healing layer. But when I became a mom, I knew that I wanted to do things differently. I wanted to show up differently. I didn't want to be out partying like I was or drinking a bottle of wine or something a night. Like I wanted to be able to be like clear and open for my children. So, but I still remember the first time that I said, I'm sorry to Vivian. And she was 3 at the time. It was before I gave birth to Juliet. And I remember, because I was nesting, I went to the Container Store because that's where all good nesting begins. And she had picked out some stickers that she wanted. And I put her, in her car seat and I let her play with the stickers. And I'm getting in the car to start driving, and it's raining, and it's just like an icky Florida day. And when I was pregnant, I dealt with like bloody noses. So now my nose is like bleeding and it's raining. And then Vivian is now crying like in the back seat because her sticker's ripped. And it's like this chaos happening. And I remember being like at a red light and being like, and yelling at her. And I remember not just being like raising my voice, like I yelled at her in like a tone that kind of brought up some childhood stuff, like, like, and I just remember immediately like crying. So now like crying, bloody nose, kid crying. Yeah, it was chaos, just pure chaos. Luckily the drive wasn't like too long, you know. We get home, Alex like comes out to help me because, you know, it's raining. He wants to help me get out of the rain faster. And he's like, what happened? You know, and he's like holding Vivian. And I was like, I just completely like lost my cool, like unnecessary, you know, like, yeah, it was kind of like one of those perfect storm moments, but like she did not deserve that. Like children are allowed to be, are allowed to have big emotions. Children are allowed to cry, and they're like, she was 3. She was still navigating, like we all are still like learning our emotional maturity, you know, but she was, 3 years old, you know, like it is disappointing that her sticker's ripped and I wasn't able to help her. Right. You know, and she didn't need me yelling at her like that. So I remember sitting with her on the couch then inside, and I was sitting like this. I had her on my lap and I was looking in her face, like a tear-soaked face. And I was just like, I remember like getting ready to say I'm sorry, and there was resistance there. Okay. And I was like, oh, this is deep rooted. Yeah. So when I said, I was like, I'm sorry to her and I love you, like I cried because I was like, oh, that is like what I also so needed to hear. Like as a kid was like, you didn't need that, because really when our children are having like big emotions, it's up to the adult to be emotionally mature and be able to handle that. Right. Yeah. Like, and when we don't handle that, when we're not doing our work, it becomes like explosive in one way or another. So me even just being able to say those words like, I'm sorry, I love you, I'm going to do it better next time, was like this opening within me that was like, I just accessed something that I haven't like touched into yet. Right. Even within like the container of my relationship with Alex, who would have loved to hear me say I'm sorry at some point in time before then. You know, it's not that I didn't say sorry, but he's was always the one to say I'm sorry first. Yeah. And then it would be even still hard for me to say I'm sorry after that. And each day it gets easier. So, you know, this was 4 years ago now, you know, and I've been on this journey of like being able to admit when I'm wrong, to say I'm sorry, to say I love you. And at first it was hard with Vivian, like, you know, she was still young. It's not like she did a lot of things that I needed to apologize for, you know, at that time. But now I'm able to say it so much easier because it's like I released that block by like opening my voice and using the words that I didn't hear as a kid. Right. So then I had to start working on that with Alex. It was like really easy with my kids. Like like I said, I knew I wanted to show up differently when I became a mother. But then I had to undo the conditioning, which is still a work in progress, of like, you know, what I witnessed as a child and how the container of my parents' marriage was, which they love each other, you know, don't get me wrong, but what you witness is then kind of what you maybe become, or you try to be different, you know, but I wasn't always the type of wife that would be like, I'm sorry, or I love you, or even be the one to give him a hug or a kiss. You know, he was always giving those things to me, and slowly had to like break down my barriers and be like, all right, like I'm going to make a change. So that kind of like circles back again to ayahuasca isn't going to fix all of your problems just by drinking it, but it does make it easier to make changes, right? Because as you know, the neuroplasticity. So when we drink ayahuasca, you afterwards you have this neuroplasticity, and it makes it easier to make change. And I love the way Alex describes it as, you know, that fresh blanket of snow on the mountain. So you don't see those ski tracks necessarily. They're still there, and you can still make the choice to go that route, or you can make the choice to choose a new route. You can make the choice to be able to use the words, I'm sorry, I love you, or to give an embrace, you know, or to ask for support.
Right.
Do you feel like you I feel like it's not everybody's cup of tea, but to like work with like the inner child.
Right.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've connected with your inner child, or?
Still working on that.
Yeah.
I do go to therapy and had been kind of working with the IFS stuff, internal family system. And I think that was what brought out my awareness of the inner child more than anything else. I mean,
yeah, it's a surefire way to get into it.
Yeah. But definitely something I've been working on. I've noticed your story reminded me that before ayahuasca, before healing, I hated touching people, like hugging people. I was one of those people, don't give me a hug. Like, I'm not going to go in for a hug. And I'm still kind of like that.
I don't know. You give me a hug.
Right. But like before I would, I'd tell people I'm not a hugger.
Yeah.
And I think because I knew deep down, like if somebody I loved were to give me a hug, like one of those 20-second hugs, I would just start bawling my eyes out, not knowing why.
Right.
And,
crack you wide open.
Yeah. And so that was just a shield for me. Like anybody coming into my space and, you know, showing me any type of love, even if I don't even know the person and they give me a hug, it's like that for me was terrifying, because then they could see me and I did not want to be seen.
Yeah.
And
how does it feel to be seen now?
Still scary a little bit.
Yeah. But inch by inch,
yeah.
Feels a little bit better.
Yeah. I love giving hugs to people I know. I'm still working on hugs to people I don't know.
I mean, of course. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a work in progress. And I think that's like really important for people to know is like, I mean, simply say Rome wasn't built in a day. Like, yeah, you can feel like leaps and bounds different and big changes can be made, but then, you know, the healing comes in layers, and as we've talked to, like it shows up in different ways, and we get to show up, you know, in different ways for ourselves. So like, and you know, every day is it's a new day. It's and you know, maybe how I showed up for myself yesterday isn't how I need to show up for myself today, you know, to kind of keep, you know, going in that direction of like reminding ourselves that, you know, of that self-love, of that purpose, of, you know, like that we're safe, you know. Right. It's like those positive affirmations of like, I'm on the path, I'm doing this work. Mm-hmm. It is each day getting better, getting a little easier to do the things that aren't necessarily the things that I want to do, but I know that are like nurturing my growth, nurturing my soul. And it's like, as long as you can remind yourself that you are on that path, it's like all is pretty good, you know?
And having the tools.
Right. The tools to be able to navigate those things. Right. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Or do you want to talk about also what else you do out at Tikkun? I feel like that's a little bit important.
Yeah. So I do grow mushrooms out at Tikkun,
which I think is amazing because like, as we know, like who brews ayahuasca is important,
right?
Like from start to finish, you know, the medicine like it matters. And that also goes for psilocybin. So like knowing that it's you growing the mushrooms, like it brings me so much joy because I know that like so much love and intention is going into that process from you. Yeah.
I love it. I love growing mushrooms out there. So much love goes into it. I love serving it. I love getting people's experience with it. Yeah. Because that brings me so much joy. Because you really can feel the difference.
Yeah.
Who brewed it, who grew it.
Right.
Like that energy is real. And that